Thank you everyone for joining me here today for the session. Now it seems like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm really nervous just telling you. Visualizing data for non-data experts, making reports accessible. And when I first created this session a year ago, I actually just called it Visualizing Data for Non-Data Experts because I experienced a lot of customers, they had reports and they didn't know what they were looking at, and the report wasn't just accessible for them. And in the past few months, I worked a lot with really accessibility, so using a screen reader, using a keyboard to navigate. And I checked my reports and I was like, well, everything I designed in the past 10 years was not accessible at all. So I thought I will add that too and share that with you. So I don't mean that everyone that needs accessibility tools or uses accessibility tools is a non-data expert. Also people that use these tools can be data experts. Just making that clear. I was thinking about this last night and I was like, could be confused. So a little bit about me. My name's Valerie. I'm from the Netherlands, originally from Germany. I have a really, really funny last name. Makes it really easy to find me on LinkedIn. So if you have any questions afterwards and you don't have time to talk to me, you can find me really easily on the internet. I have my own company, PorcUBI, and I'm all about Power BI, data analytics, visualization, storytelling, improving processes using data analytics, and business intelligence standardization, so implementing a way of working and making it, in general, really easy to use reports. And today I will talk about accessibility, and there will be a part about design, like how can you design for the end user, like making a report action-driven, really focusing on the end user. And there will also be some information about accessibility tools that you can use, like keyboard navigation, screen reader, and also some things that are built in Power BI, which I didn't know they were there, so that's why I'm sharing them, with you. And the thing is, when I figured out all these things, I realized not only that I wasn't designing accessible reports, but I also, the design wasn't that good at all. I realized that, so that's why I'm sharing that with you. In general, I worked before I had my own company as a lead consultant, and I trained a lot of junior consultants in business intelligence. And this was like feedback I got a lot. They said, like, I've built a report for my client, and I did exactly what they wanted. You can see it here. Here are the requirements. This is what they wanted. I checked all the marks, and they don't get it. So it's their fault. Like, they just don't know what they want. We know what they want. That's not really helpful, that reaction, but I understand it. And because I saw it so often and experienced it so often, I thought there must be some tips and tricks everyone can implement to actually make a report more accessible for everyone. And this is a real example that I wanted to share. This was one of my customers a few years ago. I still worked for a company back then. And what they did was vessel tracking. So these are these big boats, and they have all these containers on top of them. You see them cruising around harbors. And they have like lots and lots of data, like loading time, start time, time of arrival. Everything is really timed. It's not just they're randomly on the water and then arrive and then they unload and load. They have really like these time slots. And this company, they wanted actually an efficiency report. Because if you lost your time slot because you were too slow or even too fast, then you had to wait. And waiting costs a lot of money because you can't go back to the harbor where you started from. You can't go to the next harbor. It costs really a lot of money. So they wanted an efficiency report. And they had huge amounts of data, not just about the vessel, but also about the weather, about the current. They had GPS location by second, which is really important for these vessels. That load, unload data, it was just a lot. And they had a really, really, really smart data science team. And they were already analyzing a lot of stuff. So the company thought, we don't need to hire anyone that is doing a Power BI report for us. We will just use the people we have, and they love data, they love to analyze it. And there was also one data scientist in the team that actually said, oh, I know Power BI, it's drag and drop, and it's really easy. I will analyze this for you. And what happened is they actually built a 25-page report. There were like no titles or descriptions. It was all visuals on all these pages. All the information of all the vessels was in all the visuals. So they had like up to 40 vessels and then like a line chart about the GPS locations. You couldn't see anything. And they had countless filters because the data scientists, they actually said, yes, this is all the data, but now you can dig through it. You can just make this your data. You can click on all the filters and click around, and then it will work for you. The problem was, this was the end user. It were the managers of the vessels and the captains, because these were the people that actually should get the efficiency report and could see how am I performing, am I too fast, where could I improve, and they couldn't get anything out of the data. I was talking to one of these captains afterwards when they asked me to redesign their report. And I was like, when you look at these visuals, what are you actually seeing? And he was like jokingly saying, well, you can clearly see that vessel 3 won because it's fastest right. And at least they saw the fun in it. But of course, no one could use any of that. And that doesn't mean that the data scientists did a bad job. They just analyzed the data in a way they were used to analyze the data. They reported the data in a way they were used to report the data. But they didn't clearly think about their end user and how they are going to use the report. And that's something, part of this is the everybody knows fallacy. It's, we often think that everyone around us knows the same things as we do. Like, I'm a BI consultant, and when I worked at a company, I worked with other business intelligence consultants, and all the other people that were not business intelligence consultants in the company, they had some experience with data or passionate about data. My husband now also is really passionate about data because I'm telling him all the day about it, so he has no choices. My friends also are data enthusiasts. So it feels, when I'm in everyday situation, it feels like everyone has the same knowledge as I have. Like everyone can build business intelligence reports, right? But we forget that everybody is bigger than what we think. Everybody is not just the people we see around us and have direct contact with every day. It's many more people. So often you need to take one or more steps back and think about, okay, what are these people really looking for? What do they really need? And that's this slide is all about who is the actual audience. Like, ask yourself, for who am I reporting? For who am I designing a report? Like, who are the people? Is it like one person? Is it a group? Is it the team? Is it the whole company? In our example, it would have been the managers and the captains. Knowing who you are designing for gives you some insights into how you need to design. It's also really, really important to get to know what their level of experience is. A report designed for someone with really low experience looks different than a report designed for a group of people with really a lot of experience. When I know People don't work with data all day. They open Power BI like once a month to see this monthly report that's important for them. Then I try to design something really, really simple. No drill-through, no bookmarks, as little filters as possible, just to make it really intuitive, make it easy to find the information they need. When I know this is really an experienced group, then I can actually add more of these fancy things. I know a lot of my clients that tell me we want an interactive drill-through report. It's like the first meeting. I've never seen them before, like pre-sales meeting, and they're like, it must be interactive and drill-through. And I'm like, and what are you going to do with it? I don't know, but it needs to be interactive and drill-through. And when I ask them, what do you mean with drill-through? They're like, oh, if I click on an image or on one of these visuals and it's by week, then I want it to be by day. Oh, so you mean a drill down? This is really, you really have to ask these questions, because people, they hear all this marketing stuff and they're like, Power BI is an interactive tool. We want an interactive tool. But what does it mean for you? How are you going to use it? And that's the next point. How are they going to use the report? What actions are they going to take? The actions that the end user is going to take actually determine the design of the visuals. Because if you know what actions they want to take, which targets they want to hit, then you can design accordingly. If you know that they want to see every time their target isn't hit, you can really focus on that in the report design. So they open the report and they directly see target not hit, what was the cause for that. But if you don't know what actions they're going to take and which steps they want to take, then you design something that fits everyone, and in the end it fits for no one. Also really important, how much detail do they need? If you ask your customer how much detail do you need, they want the lowest detail. They want everything. Like, we want everything because otherwise we are afraid that we're missing something. I had customers telling me, we want Power BI real time. I was like, why do you want Power BI real time? Yeah, we need the information all the time. And I was like, this is nice, but your data source is updated every night. So I can do this for you real time, but it will be all day the same data. So what I'm doing instead of asking how much detail do you need is I ask a lot of questions, like if you take actions, do you take these actions on a daily basis, on a weekly basis? How often are you going to look at this report? If they're looking at this report once a day in the morning to determine which actions they want to take, it makes no sense to update it all through the day when no one's looking at it. So that's what actions I want to take. And there's something else that's really important in general in report design. It's asking questions. And a lot of people are afraid to ask questions because they think then the customer thinks they're stupid. That's what my junior consultants told me. They were like, yeah, and then they think I know nothing and I get paid to do this. But you're asking these questions because you want to deliver the best report for the customer. You want to create insights. You want them to take actions, and you want to them to use the report and not open it once and then forget about it. That's why you're asking the questions. You want to really get to know them. And I had customers telling me, why are you asking so many questions? I thought you had experience. Like, of course I have experience. I wouldn't tell you if I haven't, but I have this experience, and because I have this experience, I know that no company is the same. Even if it looks like a same kind of company, you have different teams, you have different goals, you have all these targets and processes. They can be really different. Definitions one company has can be really different for another company. And I need to know that, because if I don't know what you're doing, I can't design accordingly. And then I will design something in general, and it will not fit your needs. I also tend to ask them about prior experience. Like I had customers telling me, I'm going to this website and I have this really nice visual, and that visual is actually showing me what I want. Can we have that for our company? Then I already know what they like. I know what they're looking for. And then I know a little bit about how they perceive information. So that's really important. And something else is I provide a lot of examples. I have like a big portfolio, especially with customers that have no experience with reporting. I show them some examples. Like, we can visualize data this way, and then you could take these, and these actions or these steps. Does that fit with what you are doing? Does that fit your business? And providing examples can really help them. And it also can help you, because if I'm showing them a visual and they have no clue what I'm looking at, I know that that will not work. And I actually had one client, they really liked the visual. I don't know, I think it was a tree map or something like that. They really wanted that tree map. Really, it had to be a tree map. No discussion, it had to be there. And I had, I think, 4 or 5 meetings where they were asking me how they needed to interpret it. I was like, you wanted that? And every time I explained to them what they were seeing, and they were like, oh, now I understand it. And then we had another meeting, and they were asking me the same question. And I was like, offering, we can also visualize this in 5 different ways. No, we want the tree map. And in the end, they got a different visual, by the way. But I got also really annoyed. After the 5th meeting, I was like, you really don't understand how this works. Can we just change it? And first, by the way, I hid it under a bookmark. So I put a different visual on top and made a bookmark so they could still switch to their tree map. So they could gradually get used to the feeling of using something they could understand. So the visual is actually determined by the goal and the end user. So the goal is which actions they want to take. What information does your end user really need? And the end user, of course, is the level of experience, how often they're going to use the report, these kind of things. These 4 examples, they all show the same data. It's sales by territory. I know you can't read that, so I'm telling you. At the top left, you have a map visual, or card visual. Map, it's a map, where you just have the regions highlighted where there's sales. And I got a lot of feedback about map visuals, like you can't really see what's going on and you can't see the details. If you hover over it with your mouse, you can, but it's not really obvious. But sometimes a map visual could be really helpful. For example, if your customer or your audience is a big company and they have this yearly update and they just want to send out like a newsletter having some infographics about these are the regions we are performing really well, this visual could be enough because you don't need to send all the data to all the company. People will not understand it. Maybe they will even start to worry. But you could send them the information like this. It's a really easy way to look at it. It's fine. If you want to compare, like the bottom left visual, that's of course easier because you have all the regions on the x-axis and you can see the sales. And on the bottom right, you actually see a table, metrics table. And I added that because people are always telling me, if you're a designer, you don't put tables in Power BI. Don't put these tables there. But sometimes customers really like their tables. Like they really want them. A lot of finance people really want their tables. And then, of course, I can say I don't do tables, but then they get really unhappy about it. So something I'm doing is I provide the table and I add some visualization and, for example, some conditional formatting. So they still have some bar charts where they easily see what's the best and worst performing region in this case. It tracks the attention to the points where the attention needs to be tracked to. So you still have a table, but you can still visualize it. And for the people that have trouble to interpret data, they can look at the bar chart. And people that have trouble interpreting the bar chart, they can look at the data. So you have two audiences that can be pleased with a solution like that. And they still have their table, so everyone's happy. Small changes with tables make this huge impact. Same tables. At the bottom, at the top left, you see like basic table, like how we know tables. At the top right, I added like the symbols going up and down. Can be helpful, can also be a little bit much. If you have a big table and you put in symbols in every column, it will be really colorful, and then it's getting hard to find stuff anyway. At the bottom right, I just highlighted the top and bottom performing products. So that makes it, again, easier. So I'm not using as much symbols there. You can do that with DAX. It's not standard in there, but you can do some DAX calculations for bottom and lowest performing, and then you can put it in there. And bottom left, again, added some bar charts. But you see, adding small conditional formatting things can make it actually a little bit more accessible. It makes it easier for someone that's not looking at tables every day to actually see what's going on. Something else that's really, really handy is meaningful subtitles, titles and subtitles. Titles provide context, and we all know like newspapers and these kind of things. We are used to getting some information in the title. Somehow, when I started using Power BI, everyone was using like sales by month, this year versus last year, these kind of titles. And then you have to go into the visual and look for yourself, like, okay, these are the sales by month, okay, is it going well or not? And you have to check it yourself. You also can do dynamic titles, it's also DAX, where you actually provide some part of the answer already in the title or subtitle. You can do that for both. And in this example, I kept the title, Sales Development by Year, but in the subtitle, which is, even for me, I can't read it at the moment, it's actually providing some information. And using DAX, you can make it really dynamically. So and it's guiding the end user. Because also as data people, we look at a lot of visuals, and we think everyone looks at a lot of visuals every day. Everyone knows all these visuals. There are quite some people, even line and bar charts, they're having trouble to interpret it. And they're never going to admit it, because no one's going to say in the middle of a meeting, I have no clue what I'm looking at. Like your CEO, he's not going to say, I have no clue how a line chart works. But when I hear them talk about the data, I actually realized that I have no clue what they were looking at. So providing these titles and subtitles also helps them to realize what's going on. And next to the title and subtitle, you can also look into the legend and use some color coding. Legends are really nice, and we often forget them, because if you use more than like 2 categories, it's really good to show which color does what. And it's also really important when you use color coding to use big contrast. I've seen some nice color coding, like in 5 shades of blue. If you're colorblind or something like that, you will see 1 shape of blue, depending on the color blindness, but can be really hard. So if you're using color coding, which can be helpful, for example, to visualize a target, check that the color have a bigger contrast. But this also helps them to get the attention to what you want them to see. And this one, it sounds, it's just make it simple. I always say make your reports really simple, and it's the opposite of what you get when you talk to the customer. They're telling you, like, we want all the information and we want everything in it, and I want to see like 5 different things in one visual. My approach is always to try to make stuff really, really simple. Because if it's simple, people understand it more easily. The example on the left is showing you sales target hit 4 times in 2023. I used some color coding to show which months it was actually hit. I used a line that they can also reference the target. But maybe that information is not all needed. Maybe they only want to see which months did we hit the target. Like which months did we succeed and which months did we not succeed. So at the top right, the visual actually shows you the sales target hit for the months. This is a matrix visual, and I just used conditional formatting for the background and the font. So you just easily see, okay, these months we hit the target. And if you hover over it with your mouse, you can put in all the information in the tooltip. Maybe they want to see the days they hit the target or did not hit the target. You can do the same. So this is the same information, but it's visualized in a different way to make it easier to understand. And this is really important. Don't overestimate the time the user is willing to spend to find information. Somehow, and maybe that's a data people thing, we think everyone loves to dig through the data. And they just want to look into the visual and do the drill down and click all these things. Most customers I've worked with, they open this report for like 1 minute because they just want to get the information they need to put it in their presentation, to go to the next meeting, to have like an evaluation with an employee. And that's that. They don't want to filter stuff. Often they don't know how to filter stuff. I had quite some customers calling me that they broke Power BI. I was like, what did you do? How did you do that? And I was like, yeah, I clicked on stuff and now I don't get it back. So I just had to tell them how to reset the filter. Now all my dashboards actually have some reset all filters button. Still, one called me. And I also had one customer that called me like, I've done nothing. And then we did the screen sharing, and I saw that they clicked on all kind of stuff. Apparently that's nothing. But don't overestimate the time they're willing to learn how to use a BI tool. Don't overestimate the time they're going to click through stuff and to find information. And I actually have 2 examples here. The top right, it was part of a data challenge, storytelling with data. And this is like an example you see a lot. Someone tried to answer 6 different questions in one visual. Like if you look at the visual from different angles, you see different kinds of informations that you can use to analyze it. And it probably works really, really good for the team that built that visual and using it every day. Everyone else in the company will be completely lost. So what I did in the visual at the bottom, and I don't say that's the perfect report, but it's an approach, is I actually took all these 6 questions that I answered out of it and put it in a report. So people could actually look at the information they want answered and go directly there. So that's about the accessibility and design part. In the end, the design, there you can do so much more, but we only have 50 minutes, so I had to focus on some of them. It's always important to know your end user. Like you really have to talk to them. And sometimes it's scary, and often they don't want to make any time for you. I hear that a lot also from other consultants. They're like, they don't want to have a meeting with me about what they need. I think, well, maybe we should have a meeting while they're the customer, because we can't build, or I can't build something for you if you don't help me understand what you need. And I'm not going to design something for the trash bin. I want you to actually use what I'm building. So I also want to talk a little bit about the accessibility features, because Power BI has some built-in stuff, which is amazing, which I didn't know, like keyboard navigation, where you use tab order. You can use Power BI in combination with a screen reader. I tried quite some of these screen readers. There is some difference in screen readers. And also there's this nice option in Power BI, not just the accessibility themes, but you also can change contrast in Power BI. And I want to tell you something about the experience I had. So the keyboard navigation, that's really awesome. All the elements can be navigated using a keyboard. I never use the keyboard of my laptop. I'm like a mouse person. I always see people like using shortcuts on their laptop, and I'm like, amazing. I don't even know how to duplicate my screen. I've tried it sometimes, and then afterwards I always forget it. But if you want to use a keyboard, or if you need to use a keyboard, you can navigate around a dashboard. And if you press Shift and the question marks, you actually get an overview of all the shortcuts. And there's also a link to the documentation of Microsoft. And it's really amazing what you can do. And then once you selected your report, you can move around also with the arrow keys. And there's this one Control-Shift F11, which is amazing, because if you press that, all your visuals will be tables. That's the example I have there, and the example is really bad because I don't design for tables. But I was like, all my customers are always asking, can we also have tables? They also ask if you can export it to Excel, but second one is, can we also have everything in a table? And if you press Control-Shift F11, your whole report is like one big, now not one table, but lots of different tables. And that's really, really, really awesome. You can also enter visual, clicking on enter. And what I mean with that is if you have a visual with like an x-axis with all the months on it and you press enter, you can move through all the months. And then if you press enter again, you filter then, and you can also multi-select data points. So I was really amazed, and I was trying around all day. And first thing, and that's what I told you at the beginning, was I realized that I'm not designing for people using a keyboard, because there's something called a tab order. And I marked my tab order here, and then you also see how I'm creating reports. I often create reports on different pages. So I look into different visuals, and then I make a duplicate of the page and another duplicate of the page. And in the end, I have 20 pages, and then I combine everything, and then it gets one neat report. But it's a lot of moving around stuff. So here you see, actually, that I started at the bottom right with a table. I started with a shape, because why not use all kind of shape in your report? And then I went to the bottom left, and then to the right, and again to the left. And the KPIs, like where you want to start, actually. Maybe you even want to start the title. That was the last thing you could select. And then I thought, oh, maybe it's just this report. And I opened all my other reports, and I tried it, and they all looked like this. And I was like, well, that went well. Something else I realized when I was testing this in combination with the screen reader, was I use a lot of shapes, and the screen reader also was reading to me all the shapes. And the one shape it wasn't reading was the title, because this is a shape where I put text in it, and it wasn't able to read it. So I was confused and a little bit annoyed with myself, because I always tell my customers I'm an expert in design, and then I deliver something that's looking like that. So I found out that you can change the tab order, and it's really, really, really easy. It will take you like half a minute, and it will ensure that your report can be accessed using a keyboard. So I think that's really important. It does not take a lot of time. It's really a small effort that will help you improve accessibility. So in Power BI, you have this at the top, the view selection, and then you see layer order and tab order. I never saw the tab order. I don't know. I just didn't see that it was there. I was reading the documentation from Microsoft, and they were like, and then you click on tab order, and I was like, tab order? But it's there. And if you click on it, you can actually rearrange stuff. So everything you want to be selected first, you put at the top, and then you go down accordingly. I also realized that it's really handy to name stuff. Like, apparently everything in my report had the name shape, 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 shape. Um, at least I named my visuals, but I thought, well, it's not really nice. If I give this to a customer and then I tell the BI team, have fun working with this, and someone wants to work with this, they will see this. So that's important to give things names. In the tab order, you can also hide stuff. So what I did was hiding all my shapes. So they will not be selected anymore using the tab order. By now, I always have a fixed background. I design them in Figma or Canva, so I don't use all these shapes anymore. But if you're using any shapes, make sure to hide them if they're just for decoration. Something else about accessibility is using alt text, alternative text. And I also didn't know that existed. I have a website, I have a blog, and I always try to, I didn't want to name everything picture one. So now if you're going to my website, I fixed it now, but a few weeks ago, if you would have gone to my website, you would have seen things like picture one, Valerie speaking, and that all my picture said that, and that's of course not useful. Alt text is actually also read by screen readers, so people that can't see, they can actually hover with the mouse or go over the screen, and then the screen reader will read what's in the alt text. So please put something informative in there, not picture one, picture two. Every element in Power BI, you can put in an alt text. And it's read by screen readers. It should be meaningful, and it says max 250 characters, which is, it's fair. You don't want to put in too much information. But you also can use conditional or FX, you can use ducks. So instead of writing something fixed in there, you can also write something in ducks and make it dynamic. So you could also provide a little bit of the answer just with the meaningful titles and subtitles. You can add something meaningful in there, which is read to your audience. And especially if you're not using this dynamic titles or subtitles, this would be the point where you add meaningful information. Because otherwise, someone that can't see, and you have really big visuals, for example, with a lot of insights, putting the information there, that they don't need to hover over everything and think about everything they're seeing or hearing, because it just reads visuals. And I don't know, sometimes I get like a code where you log in and then you need to confirm that it's you, and they send like this 6-digit codes, and I'm having trouble going from one screen on my phone to another screen and typing in that code, and now my phone does that for me, because apparently I'm not the only one. But can you imagine just hearing the numbers in a dashboard for example, for a year by month? No one can remember that. So put in some decent alt text. Use ducks. It's really, really easy. The first time it's not easy, just to be honest. Second time you're doing it is easy. There's something else I found out is high contrast, because I know a lot of people say, don't design in color, design in black and white. And I like design, so I'm not listening. I design a lot of infographics and colorful stuff. And in Power BI, if you're in the online version, you can actually click on like the square at the top, and there you have an option which is saying high contrast colors. And Power BI also offers some options. I tried all of them. None of them was working for my design, because I do a lot of conditional formatting and colors and fixed backgrounds, except high contrast colors. What high contrast colors does, it makes your report black and white, which is awesome. Then I don't have to do it myself. But then I realized, if you're using a legend with, for example, 5 categories, if you do it in black and white, they all will be black dots. So legend will not work anymore. So I realized I had to use data labels in my visual, which was amazing, because I thought, if anyone had done that before with my reports, which I try to make really, really clean, they will actually not see anything anymore. The same with at the bottom left, like the stacked bar chart. I put the data labels in for this example. Before, I didn't have the data labels inside there, so you couldn't see what's the difference. So it's really important to check these kind of things. And I'm now doing this every time I'm designing something, just checking if I put it on high contrast, is it working? Because it also tells me, do I provide enough information? Am I missing something? These kind of things. And it's easy, it's for free, it's just in the online version. I didn't know about it. And I'm training people to use Power BI, but this I've never seen before. Also, something really, really nice I want to show you is there's a website, colorblindness.com, where you can actually put in screenshots of everything, but in my case, reports. And you can upload them, and then you can check for some types of colorblind, not all, but for some of them, and see how someone else sees your report. So this is really handy if you want to check if the contrast is high enough. I've seen in quite some of my reports that the colors looked all the same. And then you can use a legend, but then also everything looks the same. So that's really, really nice. I also read about the squint test, and that's not just for color blindness, but if you turn down like the brightness of your laptop screen or your computer screen, and you squint your eyes, are you still able to see the most important information? And that's for design in general also the case. Are you still seeing the most important information? Because if you're not seeing the most important information, you need to make it more visible. And always check with the end user. I'm currently working on a project where they asked me to design accessible, and I just followed some rules, and then I actually checked with someone that can't see how she works with my report. And I thought I followed all the rules, but having an end user really having to use a report with a screen reader, for example, shows you actually how it works and shows you how they perceive what you are doing. So if you have the possibility, always check with people. So the takeaway is always design for the audience, and the goal and the end user actually determine the visual. Don't design for yourself. I mean, we all can make our own reports and make them really pretty and do all the stuff we want to do. You're designing for someone else, and they most of the time, don't want to dig through all the data. So design for the end user. Provide context and meaning. Make it as easy as possible to look at a report. Make it fun. And I don't mean fun like, whoa, I'm opening Power BI, but I'm meaning like, make it something like I'm opening Power BI and I'm okay. I can find all the information I want to find. I open this, I can take the actions I want to take, these kind of things. Accessibility is really, really important, and it's not a luxury. The steps you can take to improve accessibility, they don't take a lot of time. Just incorporate them and make sure your reports are accessible. Start with the tab order. It takes you half a minute. Have a look into it. And then look into alt text and these kind of things. Yes, it will take some extra time, but you improve the experience for other people. And keep it simple. If you want to contact me, feel free to contact me by mail, by LinkedIn, by Twitter. If you have questions to look together at reports, feel free to send me a message. I'm not really fast in responding to messages, but I will respond, and I really love to see or hear from you. There's a feedback link, and you also will get it by mail. I think it's really, really important for me if you provide me with feedback, because then I can learn. And also, I think for every time feedback is filled in, there's actually a donation made to the guide dogs and some other charity. So it's really valuable that you fill it in. It's for good cause. It's for good cause and me growing. So thank you for the attention. I think we are also almost out of time. If you have questions, we have a microphone here and people ready to run around. If you're a little bit shy, you can also come up afterwards to me or send me a mail. It's all fine. Any questions? I know it's late. I'm also feeling a little bit sleepy. No questions? Thank you so much for attending this. Thank you.